Hello and welcome to another episode of Mitten Backstage. Thanks so much for joining us today. I am so happy to be talking with Luke Sass. Now, a lot of you might know Luke Sass as a friendly face at a lot of the Michigan music scene events, a lot of festivals, a lot of things. But you might know him especially because he was involved in heading the Founders Brewing Company entertainment team for a few years. I worked under him for 2 of those years, just about 2. But he and I, hadn't chatted in a while since everything, happened over the past year. And it was great to sit down and catch up with him, hear about his new, his pivot back into construction and some of the things he does as a work safety inspector, as well as picking his brain about Woodstock 99. He attended all of the days, and there was a recent documentary that came out on HBO that I viewed and shared about, and he was one of those people that chimed in and said that he was attending, so we chat about that experience. And he just drops some great nuggets of wisdom from his time in the music industry. If you liked today's episode and you want to support the podcasting efforts, you can go to patreon.com/Dr. Snedeker. There, you can get access to early episodes of all of the podcasts that I produce, as well as exclusive merch, a mailed newsletter, and more. There are new updates coming in for Patreon over the next month. So if you are curious, some of those updates will go public on various platforms. So you can follow me on all the social medias. Everything's linked through my website as well, drsnedeker.com. You can hear all the different recordings I've been involved in, watch some videos, find all of my profiles and follow those. There's a lot to explore, so feel free to check it out. And if you dug today's episode, feel free to share it with someone who you think would enjoy the types of conversations I'm having with different artists and music business types in the Michigan music scene. All right, let's get right into today's episode with Luke Sass. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just a little camera shy, as you can see.
Yeah, just a lovable little pup.
Oh, she's something else, man.
Yeah, I dog sat for my parents a couple months ago, and I forgot, this is what it's like having dogs around all the time. It's pretty great.
Good, man. It's there's times when you get a little bit like, oh, I can't believe I did that to myself. Like when she lays in bed and stretches out like a zombie. But right now she's being super cute, running around wagging her tail, and that's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not in Grand Rapids anymore. I forget where, or are you?
Yeah. So yep. So we haven't talked. I'm guessing this is kind of a good spot to start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I well, 1 second. Let me actually let the dog out. She actually just carried her leash to me, and that's very sweet. So
she's like, here.
Yeah, I tried to lock her in her cage. Oh, hold on, come here. I tried to lock her in her cage with her little peanut butter, but
oh yeah.
Eat that, and now she is distracted. So that's cool. There we go. Yeah. So right now, what I am doing is living in Grand Rapids. So yeah, we haven't talked in, like you said, about a year, maybe if not a little bit more. Haven't really seen a lot of people in that time. Did get a chance to check out Green Skies event in Caledonia, which was a nice and much needed refresher. A chance to see some live music and enjoy that. So yeah, in that last year or so, I'm still living in Grand Rapids. I own a home here. I got married. I have a new dog, and I have a new job too. So I mean, everything's kind of just pivoted, as they've been saying these days, and I'm happy and things are good.
Yeah, I did see at least the update of I think I saw the dog and the marriage. I must have confused you with, I know Morgan lives in Kalamazoo now, so I was like, oh, I didn't know who was still around or who moved or.
Yep. Nope. Yeah. So I just been living here probably about 2.5 years or so, and it's been awesome. Kind of that whole progression from trying to figure it all out to a little bit of professionality and adulthood, and maybe even dadhood someday if I'm so blessed. So it's a funny ride, to get older and to build on the foundation.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely kept you like, some semblance of being grounded, having like, all right, I got, the house, we're getting married, this is, leveling up, like things are still moving in a good direction, even in the chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. It was instead of planning a wedding for 300, 400, 500 people, I have 36 first cousins on my dad's side alone. So
Oh,
when we get sassy, we get sassy. You know what I'm saying? Uh, so I never thought about it. That's good slogan for it.
yeah.
So
Family reunion.
yeah, man. So planning a family reunion like that just really wedding like that just didn't really seem feasible at the time, and it allowed us to kind of focus on what we wanted to do and to focus on ourselves and to make sure that we were just celebrating kind of all the sacrifices from the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of been that was the thing that we really had a good chance to focus on, and then coming home to our pup, that was our next thing. So it's been a good, and like I said, we're happy and we're healthy and we're content.
Yeah, that's all you can really, hope for.
It really is, and it's funny. I've chased every dream I've had, as hard as I could, and happiness, I guess, is the one that you want to focus on most. Is kind of what I've come to find out.
With all the happy things happening.
Yeah, it's I guess there was a point, I don't know how long ago, but I just kind of sat back one day and it was like, if you invest in life, life seems to invest in you. So some of those things, when you cross them off, like fix your credit, get married, like fine, settle down a little bit, but it seems like you get rewarded a little bit. So it's been good, and I'm really happy and I feel good about it. So
Yeah, I feel that, at least in the sense of like, when you said investing in life, I'm I'm on this like health wellness journey, and I've lost so far about 40 pounds since March.
good.
And that, putting it there's one of those perspective things of like, oh, I didn't realize like how much, strain and like, aches and pains just came with that I thought was just like, oh, I must be sleeping weird, or I just have like a, let me fix my bed or get a new pillow. And it's like, oh, if I, dropping 40 pounds so far has been a big help.
Yeah, man, it's a weird thing. It's how'd you do it? Congratulations.
Thanks. It was kind of a, at least right now, I'm not plateaued yet. I know I'm gonna hit that point where it's like, okay, I'm eating healthier, and then also, less sugars and processed foods and starches, and like, obviously you can have like, there's moderation, but I didn't have that last year. So now I'm working on just like the very intentional eating of like kind of being strategic. If it's me by myself, like, okay, what am I eating today? Like, I don't have anything with the band, I don't have a comped meal at a restaurant, like what food am I eating? And then paying attention to, if I'm actually hungry for like a meal, or like what, actually listening to the actual hunger pangs, instead of just being like, oh, there's food, or I'm bored, there's food.
Yeah.
um
I don't know if you know, but I had lost over 110 pounds in my life before, so
oh, wow.
and definitely know how it feels, and I know how crazy it is. You almost feel taller, and I just got through with a bunch of physical therapy for a shoulder issue, which kind of helped to show me all those years of all the strain that you were talking about, and how to kind of get everything back into place from lethargy and just being over, all the bad things. So that's been a nice welcome point to it too, and I'm happy for you, man, 'cause it feels really good. I know how it feels.
Thanks. And I paired that with, at least like thinking of the, the wellness, I guess. I've been really digging the float sessions, like the sensory deprivation stuff. There's a spot in Easttown that float spot.
Twice now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's I actually did one this morning. But yeah, I've been doing those, and then I was reminded from Shelby Schneider. Actually, she's been a massage therapist for like 7 years, and I was like, oh, I haven't really ever had a deep tissue massage. Let's try it. And now I'm like, okay, this is needed to like knead out all the stress and like help, like I'm relearning all the stuff that I learned from years of playing sports, but like a little bit more proactive instead of just like, I'll stretch when coach tells me to stretch. Now it's like I'm the coach. So
well, and what you guys do on stage, is it's besides being mental, it's also physical, and all that repetition, like it's and then the speed of it and everything. Now I'm involved with like worksite safety and that kind of thing, and it's interesting to see, and then also going through that physical therapy, how repetition like that can just kill you, if you're not stretching, and just how much a little bit of a stretch can make a difference.
Yeah, just like checking in, and I thought about back when I did the Bang on a Can Summer Music Festival back in 2016. I was fighting like tennis elbow that whole month because I had spent, like, I guess the way that the festival tends to work is you find out if you're going basically like a month out from the festival, and you spend the whole month in North Adams, and then they mail you, 3 weeks out from the first day, they mail you all the music that you're going to be learning with different ensembles. And then you prep a bunch of solo stuff for the lunch concerts. So I was playing a ton over those 2 months, and I just remember like having one of those little tennis elbow things, and just around there, and then taking it off to play, and then putting it right back on, and just not at all being conscious of how it could affect me.
So now I'm in construction, and I get to tell stories about all the stupid stuff I've done in the past, and especially with safety. And I have 2 brothers and a sister, and my 2 brothers worked very closely with me in drywall, and so I learned everything from, and my dad as well. And we would hang like these 300-pound sheets of drywall on 3 sections of scaffolding, a peak roof, and people like McMansions, and just like over and over. But they were 16 feet long, 5/8 thick, 4 feet wide, and we would have one person on the ground, and they would hand the board up to a person in the middle, and then they would hand it up to the person on the top, and those 2 would hold it. The person on the bottom went to the top, and then they got it up to the top level, and then all 3 would go to the top and then put it on our heads, and then hold it up on the ceiling like this, and then you would nail off all around you. Yeah, right. And they make things to make it way easier than that. Yeah. And I remember asking my dad why we didn't have a drywall lift, which are maybe, I can't imagine they're more than $300. And he goes, I have 3 sons. Why do I need a drywall lift?
That's such an old dad working man answer.
Yeah, man. And now like I'm working on these job sites, and it's funny too, like I had to climb a scaffolding the other day, which I'm not super accustomed to, in order to verify the safety of said scaffolding. So no one else has been like, this thing's safe, but I was with my boss, and I'm learning. And so it's like some of the first people to go on this thing, and it's all, from the looks of it, everything's fine, and generally everything's good. But I got halfway up, and I just kind of got the shakes, and I was like, can't do it. And I looked up, and I was like, guys, I'm going back down. And when I got down, I was expecting to hear the worst of it from, like, I'm talking like 65-year-old construction workers who've been doing it since before. And they actually were like, thank you very much for not coming up here. And I go, what do you mean? They go, we didn't want to pick you up off the ground. And I was like, that's pretty cool to hear that. So it's interesting to see that the world, while it hasn't changed all the way, it's starting to really lighten up a little bit, and people are starting to value themselves a little more, I think.
Yeah, I've been hearing that sentiment from a lot of people I've been talking to over the past few months. Just the shifts in perspective. Like some people, you know, drastically altering what they're doing. Some people like, you know, pivoting out for a little bit and getting perspective from working a different type of job, or like I was talking with a singer last week, and she you know, she was on tour with the Glenn Miller Orchestra for like 2.5 years,
Oh, wow.
and now she has been doing, like, she's done a couple concerts in the last year, and one of them was with Kurt Elling's new group. And so it's like she has those little moments of like, oh yeah, I still can do all this music stuff, but she's been doing a lot of like helping, you know, schools with their Zoom choir things, or like editing a video for a, you know, a school's remote band collaboration or something. So she's been kind of a technical, like, video editor for the last year.
I'm generally keeping her foot in the door doing something, but you know, it's interesting to see what people have done to keep themselves afloat, and you know, I know how that goes, and it's funny when you know, I don't ever want to. It's tough to say like, yeah, you know, I heard on Joe Rogan on a podcast, but in some of the early ones, because I listened to it very very early on when it started, you know, back when it was a little more heady, it seemed, and not to sound like a freaking hipster or whatever, but you know, they would just talk about like the through line, you know, and how like life is just a through line. It's like whatever you're doing is there's a commonality between it all. So that's kind of what has helped me to get through it all, is like, you know, whatever I'm doing, I'm learning just for the next day, you know, whatever that is. So it's kind of neat to see like what I've learned in music actually transfer to a professional world, and to see that there's value in a, you know, semi-corporate level for the same exact skill set. So it shows me that, you know, there's an opportunity for people to pivot like that. It gives me hope if we end up closing down again, you know. So I've been happy to be able to not miss any payments, and not, you know, not miss any meals, obviously, and all that stuff. So that's again, feeling pretty happy about it, man. It's cool just to see, you know, how it all accumulates. You know, the same way I see you diving into other aspects of, you know, like the people ask me about musicians and stuff in my new job, and you know how it is to meet them and hang out with them, and I'm like, it's everyone's super cool, you know, and generally most people say the easiest thing was to learn their instrument, the hardest thing was to learn the business and relationships, and so that's interesting to use that part of what I learned in entertainment, to walk onto these job sites where people generally weren't or aren't, you know, the most enthused about what they're doing, and to just spread a little bit of that hospitality vibe, you know, and to kind of make everybody feel like we're doing something good, and there's value in what we're doing, and you know, we may not be at home, but we can make this feel like a good place to be, and generally that good vibe has awarded me with some good uh, you know, reviews on my performance. So it's been neat to walk into places again where, you know, you're not generally thinking that you're going to find the warmest welcome, um, especially, you know, hand tattoos, beard. I'm always wearing a hat and stuff, and which you wouldn't think is very out there, but in West Michigan, sometimes it can be. So to be able to walk in and show some professionality and still be respected for all that is really cool.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. You know, I think it's great to hear, you know, for a lot of people who might be listening, just the idea that music skills are transferable to other aspects of other careers, because so often it feels like you get far enough into music and then suddenly you're like, you know, maybe you need a part-time job or seasonal work or something to just like supplement, you know, a dry spell of gigs or whatever the situation. And there's jobs that are like, well, this person's at least worked retail for 2 years, I'll hire them over the person who's had to, like, you know, fight for $200 for a band after a month of, like, you know, back and forths, you know, someone who's had to learn negotiating, trial by fire, and, like, you know, having to put together, you know, a bill of music, organizing people around a, you know, a goal. Like there should be more of those examples for people to be like, oh yeah, he knows how to deal with other people based on, you know, what types of work he's done in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a college degree. I have no way to verify what I've done besides my past record, which at times has, held me back a little bit. But I've always gone into these things, just like, hey, this is what I have in my past, and I guarantee that I'm gonna do what I can in the future. And things like, think about some of the skill sets and how it worked. And so I guess that we should probably inform a few people as to what's going on, I guess. So I'm Luke Sass. Thanks for having me on, Dutcher.
No
And,
problem.
and it's pretty awesome. Again, we haven't talked in like a year, so you're one of my favorite people out there, and I'm really excited to be able to chat with you. But I used to be the former promotional manager for Founders Brewing Company, and we threw, along with you, working on the sound team, 175 plus shows a year. I don't know if you even hear these numbers. About 8 premier events, and then 1,000 and an 8,000 person festival, Founders Fest, as well as our company parties and things of that nature, culminating with like the Whalers playing our company party. So tons of history in that area, and we had a team of about 11 people. It ebbed and flowed a little bit time to time, but one full-time gentleman working with me, Morgan Hayner. He was the events entertainment technical supervisor, and then a staff of sound engineers and a staff of hospitality folks. So between that team, we were able to pull off things like 8,000 person sellouts and 300 kegs sold in 8 hours. And when you think about through lines, so now I work in the construction world, and I'm a third generation plasterer, drywaller in construction. And my grandpa did it, my dad did it, and my great grandpa did it as well. So it's pretty cool to have that. When my dad, when I was growing up, he always said that he wanted to teach me something that I could always feed myself with. So when he passed, I really took that to heart, and I knew that I had a trade that everyone needs at some point in their life. I guarantee you, at some point you're going to need a drywaller. So not the coolest thing out there ever, but it was something that I had. And when I was eventually laid off, when Founders kind of laid off a lot of their entertainment department, I spent some time, on the unemployment, kind of hoping that things would come back, working on the house, getting married, whatever. And kind of at the end of it, right when they cut out that extension, of course, like a lot of people, August of last year,
Yeah.
I got a call from one of my brothers who worked for a large contractor in the area, and knowing that I used to do drywall, I went to work with him for a while and didn't quite like actually physically doing the drywall so much. Took some time off, headed up north, got engaged, came back, and started working for another interiors company called Ritzma Associates as a foreman. First and foremost, learning the business and overseeing a large project, a $9 million building over here in Walker, Michigan. It's a Michigan State Police Consolidated Forensics Post. So 7 different police posts, all coming into one building, and they do everything from forensic, analysis of corpses there to gunfire, to bullet analysis, to fingerprints, to dog training. They have exercise rooms. They actually have wellness rooms, and they have mindfulness areas, which was really cool to kind of help build that and to see the progression of how they're starting to reorient that particular industry. So being a part of that and being able to make a space for those folks to help keep us safe was really cool. And to see that they're focusing on things like, they actually had non-binary bathrooms, like everywhere, every single
Wow.
place, lots of bathrooms. Yeah, and it's training rooms, everything. So it was really cool to see, on that level that maybe people wouldn't think, that would be going on there. So getting to see inside some of these places where I'll never be able to go back in there. There's a giant gate that swings shut the day that we're done, and it's a fully guarded fortress. And really cool things like bulletproof walls and all sorts of neat stuff. So that was the first thing that I started doing, and I was able to use some of that drywall knowledge to help with some issues that they had there with cracking and stuff. But the way that it ended up working well on a professional level, more than just the physicality of it and knowing how to do the drywall, was kind of having that project management knowledge. So not having gone to college and not really knowing how all that fit, how you fit yourself into these little different boxes of titles, I didn't really realize all the different skill sets that I was learning when I was throwing those festivals, from hospitality to, de-escalation to, anything. There's a whole much going on there when you bring 8,000 people to a party. So project management mainly was kind of how I started to switch my mindset and just view, and it's funny the way that I realized that it all kind of switched over was I used a porta john and then I washed my hands in one of those like pump porta johns that you see backstage, and the soap was the exact same soap. And I looked up and it was the same like company as Electric Forest, and I was like, all right, yeah, there's the through line. Like I'm at home, I've probably used this porta john before, so whatever. So we're gonna, make hay while the sun shines, and so that's been the thing. So then I kind of had some success there, mitigating some issues. I've been oddly enough at the forefront of some of the science behind dehumidification and environmental conditions inside buildings, which I never would have thought that some of my intuitions would play out to be scientific facts. So it's been cool to do a lot of research and to be able to go into places and prove why quality issues are happening, and then present solutions and then oversee how they get finished. So yeah, from there I started out at all sorts of projects and moved into more of a safety role as well too. So currently I'm a quality assurance and safety coordinator for Ritzman Associates here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and one of the largest interiors contractors. So we work from pretty much like South Bend, Traverse City, and then Lansing to Lake Michigan. So in that area, one of the largest, and we do things like the Grand Rapids Airport, currently doing the Amway Hotel, tons of different schools. We work on like the Ferguson Apartments downtown, which is some Section 8 housing, which is really cool to be involved in. The Degage Ministries downtown, which is one of our larger homeless shelters. And yeah, it's neat to now be building some of those places that I've seen go up around town and kind of seeing how it's all put together. So on those jobs, I go through, make sure that everyone's staying safe, do walkthroughs on a daily basis, weekly basis, and then issue reports on that, and then also make sure that everything is happening the way it should be, so that when we send that product off to our final customer, it's a quality product.
Yeah. Wow. That's like, I just think of like, because I'm always a fan of like the behind the scenes, like being able to like, go backstage, or like even I remember I went to a Bobby McFerrin concert, and it was at the Forest Hills Fine Arts Center, and the band sounded great, everyone was doing great. Bobby went off stage, the rest of the band kind of played him off, and then as that tune was ending, everyone starts leaving, and I'm like, no one's telling me I can't just go up on stage and say hi. So I went up on stage and talked to the band. But yeah, it like to think, you know like all the little details that go, because I think about like going into houses of my friends and just seeing like, okay, they live in like, this is an older house, here's some of this, the way this is built, this house is kind of new but it's a little bit thrown together and it looks nice but it's not functional. Like it's probably nice to like be that person that's like, nope, that's not going to fly, don't be careful
Oh,
with that piece of equipment, don't try that.
it's cool, but it's not at the same time. I mean, you get a lot of shit from people like that. It's a meme about safety guys. It's a thing, like we're not loved until something happens, and then we have to help to figure out why that happens. So you get your balls busted a lot, but what are you gonna do, but it is cool to be able to walk into a place and make it better than it was before, and then to know that you're that when people know there's a meter out there, they do better. So it's been cool and then also helping people become better at their jobs in particular. I it's I don't, I'm not really, it's funny being a promoter, I don't really promote myself very well. It's I've always loved to help other people find their dreams, but I'm a really accomplished drywaller thanks to my family. So like I've been on the covers of magazines and stuff like that, so I've been helping people who have come here from other countries that don't know the language very well, don't have a very great skill set, but can easily learn this and get a $20+ an hour job, that also has full benefits, so meeting people who have walked from Honduras. I didn't say rode a car or flew a plane, walked from Honduras here, at 15 years old, and now just got their citizenship at 21, and helping them to become, a better drywaller. Path to, making a good amount of money in a career is a pretty satisfying thing.
Yeah, that's like that. I think about, when you mentioned the person who walked from Honduras. I was there's one summer I was a camp counselor for Camp Tall Turf, and I wasn't told until after the high school session, which is usually just, for them it's like 3 days, and it's basic, like the main goal, that's kind of the joke, is like, all right, everyone's going on trips. There's going to be like scheduled supervised mingling, because they're just like, we don't want any camp babies or any don't want that kind of commingling all the time. But my cabin happened to be part of, I think there was two cabins that had different people. On the boys side, it was a lot of people who had been trafficked from, like, through gangs and through the drug trade, and ended up in Michigan, and they all, had nobody except for like two people from Mexico spoke English. So I had to like translate everything through them. And then just finding out, like, oh, this person's from one was from Honduras, Guatemala, Cuba, like all different places. And I find out after the fact, like, oh, that's that was the whole situation. It wasn't just like, it's this strange, like, why does nobody speak English in my cabin and I can't speak Spanish? It just kind of was that moment of like, oh yeah, once they, they might make this journey that's super hard, but then there's the added step of like, all right, now, there's all the legalities, the trying to get integrated and get a job, trying to find some sort of footing, and not just be, pushed from summer camp to summer camp until someone, puts them in a foster home, or if they get into a university and can get on a work visa or something. It's just the it's cool that you are able to see that type of person come in and be like, I know exactly how to train you, how to, or get you connected with the right people also, and get some sort of footing.
You'd be really surprised at how many of those folks in those particular situations end up here in West Michigan, and a lot of it is through gospel missions, and things of that nature. So I also met another lady who, the whole the Cuban situation going on right now. It's been interesting to speak with her. She came here when she was 16. She is LGBTQ, and she didn't really find a future for herself in Cuba. Um, she was drinking a Monster one day, and now she's in her 30s. She was drinking a Monster one day, and I asked her, I said, like, would you be really cool if you had like a Monster energy drink in Cuba? She goes, you wouldn't be cool, you'd be in jail. And she told me that you can't paint your house there because that's you assuming that you're better than somebody else, which you also can't clean the front of your home, because if your home is cleaner than somebody else, that means that you're better than them. So she warned of communism and said that everyone's the same, but you have nothing. And what's that worth? So it was cool. It's been interesting to talk to her and get those perspectives, and to hear some firsthand information. But she came here at 16 and like walked down to the beach in 94 when they said that they'd accept anybody who could float over, and walked up to a guy building the raft and asked if she could get on, and he asked for money. She said no, and he said, well, if you are the first one to jump off, you can get on if something happens. And she said, okay, it's better to die in the water than to die under communism. So she jumped. I mean, this is like, unless she's lying to me, which I don't think she was, the way she was telling the story. She jumped on this raft, and on the fourth day it broke apart, and she had to jump in the water and float for a day before the Coast Guard picked her up, before a hurricane. And then she landed in Miami, where a missionary from Grand Rapids picked her up immediately and brought her up here to the Beltline Bar, because she thought that she was Mexican and liked burritos. And she was like, I'm Cuban, but she didn't know English. And as you're saying, like that, like trying to integrate and really get it all figured out, I just can't imagine how that all works, and just having the respect for these folks, and to be able to help them. It's kind of I guess my entire dream has always been to help other people achieve their dreams. So as long as I'm doing that in some way, I've been able to find some happiness there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the through line, because I was just listening. I'm about halfway through uh an interview Joe Rogan did with Yeonmi Park, a survivor of escaping North Korea, and just like the detail of like, how it was living there. Like, it's a country in perpetual starvation. Like, they've basically turned the border into an impossible landscape unless you have the map to get around landmines and the clearance to not be shot on sight. Like, it's just this like insane like alternate reality that just still exists. And yeah, just thinking of like she had to she made like she got out and then had to get into China and then spent 2 years as basically like trying like being traded as a sex slave, and then escaped China by finding a way to get through the Gobi Desert and then got through the Gobi Desert, got to a point where it was like, all right, I don't have to worry about people from China. I don't have to worry about North Korean officials. But yeah, just like the, hearing those stories, and then there's people who are just like they're having like a mental breakdown, being like, wait, these masks are tyranny. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, it really puts things into perspective. So throughout this whole situation, being able to meet folks and hear those stories has been, I mean, not being in entertainment anymore, that's very, very minor compared to what a lot of folks are going through. I, luckily didn't lose anybody through this whole thing, so it's I've just been having, a pretty good and calm life, so it's been nice, man. I'm glad that you asked me to do this because you, and then I don't know if you know Pam Fernandez, who does hospitality at the Kalamazoo State Theater, but these are the two. You guys are the two folks that have hit me up through all this, so I really appreciate you thinking of me and having me come through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you've done so much in terms of like, work, like working at Founders, and then finding, you've worked with Four Finger Five in the past. You've worked with like different bands as like a booking agent, and then doing some, just all the different managerial stuff and promotion stuff, and kind of turning, I remember those meetings when you were showing like how there was a before times where like, oh, we paid Green Sky Bluegrass like, not $10, but like here, all it says is the band and the price, and there's nothing else. And then you were showing like, no, this is how we can track like so much more data, and that influences like the budget and how, the culture of the tap room, like seeing which bands are not only good for like musicianship, but also just for the whole, West Michigan music culture. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a legacy I hope continues. That's
I do too. The coolest thing was that we were infusing money directly into the scene there without it being attached to a ticket sale, which I don't know will happen again anywhere ever in the history, unless it's funded by the government or some city like that. So to be at the helm of that and to be able to dive in and use our accounting team, who focuses on beer, and our marketing team who focuses on beer, to figure out how we can best utilize all those assets to continue to infuse artists with cash and opportunities, and then maybe other opportunities too, to pair up with the brand or to do all sorts of things. So that yeah, that was pretty cool to be able to do that. And I guess I never really thought of it. We ended up. It was just so cool to have everything at my disposal there. It's a giant 600 plus person company. So when I reach out to an accounting department, like I was assigned an accountant, Brandon Lee, he was badass, just as bad as the Lee family tends to be all the time. And he was like, he was using baseball stats. I mean, you saw some of those charts where we were able to see, like we might have all had a great time, but you could see that maybe it didn't pan out as well financially, and how can we get to a point where it could, is it possible for that to happen ever? Or is it time to, just part ways and be friends, so going from a place where where I was managing, a band, co-managing a band, and like working with the artist directly, to then being on the other side of the coin and having to, be the one hiring the bands. It was very interesting to have those two different perspectives, and then all the festival management, all that stuff too. It was, yeah, that's pretty wild. I guess I never really think about a lot of it, because it was just happening, So a lot of people will ask me. It was kind of tough going to that Green Sky Festival, because people are like, "Are you getting back into music? What's going on? Are you gonna do this? Are you gonna do that?" And it's like, I who knows? That was, lightning in a bottle. Like I said, it's, it would be very easy. I would hope, that I would have enough of a reputation to get a job, somewhere doing something related to music. But, um, I just don't know that it's quite there for me yet. I think, I've also, been laying off the booze a little bit and kind of getting things together too, and going to that festival, while it made me super sad and I had a ton of FOMO, and I felt a lot of, jealousy that someone from out of state was able to produce something like that so well. I was also very proud that it happened, and I was really happy that I got asked to be a part of it. So, it was tough to hear those questions all the time, but, rest assured that I'm still working on, some ideas there. And, while I'm doing, like your friend who, plays with different orchestras and then works with schools, while I'm doing this, there's a lot of hours in the day to do all sorts of things. So, um, my sister actually owns and works with a coffee shop in Muskegon called the Coffee Factory, and they focus on vegan food and vegetarian food and just a lot of like pleasantries, for lack of a better way. And, her and I have been looking at that as an opportunity to start, moving into the hospitality realm again. I'm letting my dog out right now. That's why it's getting all weird.
Oh,
So we've actually, and you're actually getting you're going to get the scoop on this one. I haven't even told anybody about this yet, and there's nothing out there. There's no promotion. Don't go stealing my websites or anybody. But we're, going to still keep our toes in the water of promotion and business. I still like doing things like that, and probably more in a charitable way, but starting a little, venture called Sass Unlimited. So that'll be the next thing.
yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like they're just the right type of, combination of like where you at, or where you're at, and the skill sets you already have, that you just kind of flip them back on. I was gonna say too that I've been to the coffee factory. I didn't know that was your sister.
Yeah, she pretty much everything in there, along with her fiance, soon to be husband. At the end of the month here, I'll be officiating their wedding, which is gonna be awesome. But her husband kind of designed the whole look of that in there, and then, along with her, and then she is responsible for a lot of the food. So all that, furniture and everything in there is like found within the Shaw Walker building. So if you look really closely, like the front of the, front counter is all a wooden conveyor belt that they used to use to make office furniture with. Shaw Walker was the genesis of office furniture and turned into Herman Miller steel case and all that. So she manages this large building, and, we've always had a long history of working on stuff from being little kids. I used to be in her. She used to frickin' make me go on parade in like the summer. That's what we did before internet. All the kids would dress up, and you would go on parade in the neighborhood and try and get candy and stuff. Whatever. I mean, so she's been, she was kind of like the one that would teach me, all about, some of the entertainment and the arts. And she was big into punk rock, and would take me to the ice pick when I was a little kid, and I got to kind of see that side of it. And, over time, we've just been presenting all sorts of stuff. And when Four Finger Five, the band I used to manage, went on hiatus, uh, she was also going into working for this big, building, and they had an event center that they were building out. So that was when we started presenting concerts in Muskegon there, underneath the Inside the Mitten moniker, doing like, show/interviews with like local food and, yoga and all sorts of stuff. So we did that for a few years, and that's kind of how I went from working in the band world to presenting events, and then ended up at Founders. So, working with her has been a natural, supernatural for it, and we're really excited for the future. And, I don't think I'm, stepping out of the construction business anytime soon. I do enjoy it. Um, Actually, I really, really like it. And recently it's been cool to, to just see how far it's come. If you think of technology, it's construction is at the forefront of it. Oddly enough, everyone needs to use a building, so like I'm wearing exoskeletons at work sometimes, which is pretty sweet. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just the sound. It's a little less exciting than the sound of it, but it was pretty cool little piece of equipment, and using lifts and booms and all sorts of cool stuff like that, and building like analytics rooms and then cell phone rooms that are used to like catch criminals and stuff like that. Has been kind of cool to on the nerdy side of things. So to see construction come up into that world, and then to also see how virtual reality is being utilized, AI, 360 cameras. Um, it's a huge industry. So when you talk about that through line and you talk about the entertainment world, if some folks are struggling to find meaningful employment, that kind of stuff, there's so many things that you would have no expectation of existing in the construction world that are right at the forefront. Um, they're working, we're getting close to robots. The exoskeleton that I was using is used particularly in the Ford uh, factory for using, so like when you work above your head a lot, your shoulders get worn out. So probably the same way that when you have your wrist draped on the piano like that, like your wrists are kind of that point where it's just like, why am I doing this? This is the worst possible spot to put my body in, but in order to do what I'm doing, this has to happen. So these things like you wear, and they're kind of like angel wings that have like a cuff underneath your bicep, like right there where that little tattoo is, and it holds your arm up like this when you're working above your head. You can like work on electrical boxes, all sorts of stuff. Um, so it's kind of neat, but so like you literally can just hold your arms there and continue working, and then like all you have to do is lower your arm, and then it goes down. And then they have ones that you can sit down, like kind of while you're standing. So like the legs paired with the arms, you're basically laying down while you're standing up in like a reverse inverted table position, if that makes sense. So it makes it so that people are working on these factory lines or above their head all the time are just have a ton less strain. So it's just neat, and it's not quite there yet. It's a pretty early version of what's going on. Eventually they'll have added lift technology where it'll have like a 10 or 15 pound lift to it, so that you'll be able to, just lift more. So it's been pretty neat to see that stuff work. And then my boss was just down at a place in Edwardsburg, Michigan, on the border of Michigan and Indiana, which you would not think is as technologically advanced as apparently is, but he was viewing, it's called BIM. It's can't think of what the acronym stands for, but it's basically three-dimensional virtual walkthroughs of buildings. So you can see everything built before you actually build it.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's kind of like you guys discovering new gear, whatever. You're seeing these technologies start to advance, and I'm seeing all this cool stuff, and it's hard to not just be excited from a technological standpoint. If it was still hammer and nail, I don't know if I would be as stoked on it as I am, but to be a part of that has been cool, and to work with fall protection and harnesses and suspension trauma straps and all. It's very interesting. So again, when you talk about this through lines and this being more of a music industry podcast, there's hope out there, folks. If you need to patch yourself through before this thing comes back all the way.
Yeah, I love because I think of like those old school skyscraper building photos where like they're like flinging hot pieces of metal up and catching it in buckets, and they're like high up above the high up above the city. And now it's like there are more proactive steps to be like, oh, how do we increase worker efficiency without just saying work harder? Like adding systems.
Dude, it is it's a I gotta imagine $1 billion industry when you really get into it. Like it's so much at the forefront. Not only because of OSHA and MyOSHA and the unions and whatnot, it's insurance, the liability portion of it. So unfortunately, it's not from the most human side of things that everyone does this, but it happens, and that's a good thing. I actually have witnessed some pretty intense stuff. Unfortunately, I wasn't there when it actually happened, but a gentleman fell 23 feet and ended up living fortunately, because the bottom of the shaft had 3 layers of drywall and some steel framing, so he got basically body slammed 23 feet onto a floor that had also screws sticking up through it. So 10 stitches and a lot of puncture wounds and a really great story. But seeing that kind of stuff happen and seeing that it was preventable, and then seeing the reaction of the industry, it was a gentleman who didn't speak English that, and again, in the construction industry, you would not, the stereotypes, you wouldn't think there was a lot of brotherhood among, maybe races or cultures, whatever may exist out there. But when that happened, there was this big thing called a safety stand down, and afterwards, everyone gets together and talks about what happened, and then reiterates why it's so important that we all go home every day. So to see everybody get together and just be human, that was a really neat thing to do. But then to know that I can have a hand and hopefully prevent that in the future, that's been cool.
Yeah, it's great to have, like, I think of, like, the bob, like all the nets that are in the staircase just to try and attempt at preventing things. And nets are functional, but I'm also like, there's always that part of me that's like, isn't there something more like that could be done? Or so to have, to be in that position you're in where you are the person that could impact that more being done,
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah, man. So it's you're always looking for the bright side of things, but I truly recently have been finding some joy in this, so that's been neat. And and everybody likes music too, so I've got a lot of great stories to have an entree with a lot of these general contractors who might be a little more gruff than you would imagine. But if you tell a story about Rusty Wallace, the NASCAR legend, or Chris Robinson, or oddly enough, I ran into a guy. It was pretty funny. He was a big Founders fan, friends with the owners of Founders and all that. But I was working at the state police lab and up in this very officey part of it, and no one else was up there. And I was kind of having, just a day trying to figure shit out. And I hear Black Throated Wind by the Grateful Dead playing, which isn't like a very popular song, and there is a lot of people know it, but not one that is just going to be on the radio, and it's just on like computer speakers. And I'm like, who in the fuck is listening to Grateful Dead at the freaking state? And I had a sticker on my helmet, and no one ever said anything, nothing. So just wait. I'm like, oh my god, I found someone. And I go to the it's literally the smallest office in the place, and this tall dude, like 6'7", old guy, is sitting in there, half bald. And I said, hey man, what's good? Like, he's just sitting working on a computer, just like literally like an old computer, like with a tower. And I was like, what are you doing, man? I was like, you listening to Black Throated Wind? I was like, what's up? It's like, hey now. And he's like, yeah, I've been going through all the Dick's picks again, and now I got blah 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 blah. And he just starts fucking dropping mad knowledge at me. I go, well, hold on. I go, who are you? I was like, why are you? I go, huh? I was like, what's going on? I was like, you're not in a uniform, you're not construction. He's like, oh, I'm the head of DNA. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, I head up all the DNA that Michigan State Police is involved with. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, and why are you listening to the Grateful Dead? And why did you just drop like intense knowledge on me? He's like, oh, well, after I got out of college, I spent 3 years doing rubber roofing. And then I decided that I wanted to follow my idea of being a scientist. So got into that. But, through all that, I was just following the Grateful Dead around and partying and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, my friends think it's crazy that I do this, but yeah. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, this is the great. So yeah, it's everywhere. So that through line just exists, and it was cool to make a friend in that, and to talk to that guy and to hear his experience there too. Because it's the same. There's a lot of folks that are very excellent drummers that are trying to figure out what's next, and maybe they don't have the time frame in their life, or any musician that to go to pursue life on the road or that dream. And so there's a lot of cool ways that you can do that pivot and still be extremely happy and still have awesome conversations about what you love.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to realize from other types of careers, that it, as much as artists love talking about art and you can nerd out about some recording, other people like that too, and they might not be musicians, but they love, the culture of going to festivals, or they love, they followed a band for 20 years, and it's, like that kind of staying power for, someone's favorite band. It's like, oh, so this guy found it, found this band maybe in their 20s, and then that band's been there through like the marriage, the first house, we moved for a new job, the car broke down, like all these events are all part of, we were listening to the soundtrack and then it started raining and it brought back the memory, like everyone's got some attachment to music that you can talk about.
Yeah. Now we've been. I was actually now thinking about it. We've actually been building a lot of music rooms in Lowell, one down in Grand Ledge. It's been cool to see the evolution and to also know that a lot of these schools aren't giving up on music just yet. To see, what we're doing right now, podcasting. Ludington Elementary School has a podcast studio, like a badass. It's
Wow.
it's Ludington, dude, and they're putting $300 million into their schools up there, and we're able to be a part of that and to build some of that out for these folks. So it's been cool to it's no longer the days of cafetoriums, let's just say. Although I did just see one that brought me back big time. So it's been cool to walk through some of those elementary schools. But yeah, people are starting to focus again. I think, it's not manufacturing that's going to win the war here in America. So what else are we going to do? So I think it's been cool to see that part of it, and to be, music is everywhere and entertainment's everywhere, and everything can be entertainment. And I guess if you think about where music came from, everything can be musical too. So
Yeah.
couple in rock.
Right. Well, I am gonna be one thing that's like the return to normal, as many people have been saying. I didn't do the musical residency I've had the last couple years. Like it finished last year right before everything shut down, and then of course this year they didn't do it, but I got the confirmation that they're doing at West Shore Community College, they're doing Footloose in same time frame, January, February, and then shows end of February, early March. And that was one thing I noticed about West Shore Community College, was just like the intentional, like it wasn't just like every practice room I've seen. Like when I went to Grand Valley, it was, all right, this room, we'll put a door, there's no soundproofing, and you like, this room's got the good piano, this one's got the okay piano. Like the room at the rooms at West Shore Community College, there's like, I think there's 5 practice rooms, and each one has this, like, I forget the company, but it's like acoustasonic, like it's a treated room, but it also has like an interface built into the wall, so you can just start plugging stuff in, and it's all routed to an iMac that's in each room. And it's like these students have access to a literal studio that they could lock themselves in for however long. And like that's a huge tool for that community, being like everyone's kind of spread out, and then they gather for the schools and the downtown events. And it's nice to like know that there are people investing in that type of culture, even at the elementary school level, encouraging people to explore that.
Yeah, it's fun. My family had a large farm up in that area for a long time, and I kind of spent a lot of my youth up in there. And to think about that when I was walking through made me super happy, because they're not really doing that in a lot of other cities, and it shows me a lot of foresight, not only for the townsfolk to be interested in supporting something that expensive, but then to place it into design, into making a building enjoyable as opposed to utilitarian. They also had, did you go to Western?
Yes.
So we're working on the student center down there, the new one.
Oh, I didn't hear it. I'll have to like see it.
Dude, how long has it been since you've been to Kalamazoo?
I mean, since I guess I went with Steve Leaf like in June, but we didn't really drive past the school. We went through downtown, and then just straight to Morgan's house.
It is badass, dude. They have torn down a lot of the buildings at Stadium, a lot of buildings along Stadium, and replaced them already. So a lot of that
Oh,
student, yeah, they some of the student housing is like New York City loft. So like,
wow.
living room, kitchen, and then stairs up to an upstairs bedroom, like a bedroom downstairs as well. Um, like really like decorated well, like everything kind of has that like Denver color scheme to it to some degree. Um, and then so there's 2 or 3 different student centers that have been torn down and built there. Yeah, I mean, I drove through the full campus the other day and I was blown away. Even on Fraternity Row, there's like new condos and stuff. Um,
Wow.
so so yeah, so we're working in the student center and it's some, massive budget, blah blah blah, but it's 3 stories, and in there they have like the center of it is like this oculus. It's like an egg shape, and then it goes down through the floors, and then at the bottom there'll be a place where people can orate, play music, whatever, and then like some steps and stuff you can sit on to watch. You can kind of watch like Thunderdome style all the way up, and
Oh yeah.
then they yeah, but then they have a buffet, so all the food's in there as well. They have 2 different wood-fired pizza areas. This giant, the biggest fireplace I've ever seen. Coffee shops, podcast studios. I believe WIDR is relocating over there into a brand new.
Nice.
Well, I think that. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, it's been cool to be able to go in there and see all this stuff. So going to see the entertainment portion of it, to see that everybody's starting to infuse that into their education areas has been really cool to see. And it's been a big part of it too. And to know that you're gonna have a little. I think a lot about musicians who are amazing, who are teachers, and I don't see a lot of them being really sad they didn't, quote unquote, make it. And I think about how cool it is that, it's not really about all that. It's just about passing on what you've learned and making, the world a cooler place. So if I can have a little bit of part in that, creating those spaces, that makes it exciting for me, you know?
Yeah, that's well, and it's interesting because I think that the same thing happened when I went to Grand Valley. I was out for 3 or 4 years, and then, or maybe it was 3 years after I graduated. When the Tom Haas stepped down as president, he and his wife, you know, gave a bunch of money to the music building, and um, before there was no commons area in the building because that performing arts center was kind of built in chunks. Like they built the main area and then they're like, well, we expanded, so we need some offices, and they just kind of built a hallway and like it's all kind of connected. um but now with the new the new updates, it's like there's a big commons area so people can, like, after class have a place to eat lunch, do work. There's like an upstairs portion now where like people who are sharing offices, now they have their own office and ensemble rehearsal space that's like all treated and is like ready for, you could host mini concerts in there. And then they updated the theater too, so that it was a better experience for those on stage and in the audience. So yeah, it's cool that like there is, as much as we hear like, oh, the arts, we need support, we need help, there are people who are working, like yeah, like Ted Malt for Ludington. Like he's the guy who's wheeling and dealing and popping up with all these ideas that turn, like last year at part of the run of musical shows we did with Mamma Mia. We did like a donors night, and they announced at the donors night a partnership between West Shore Community College and Ferris's music business program. So you can go to West Shore and like start your education and then transfer really easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's awesome. Yeah, I know that Adam Bogues, who used to work with us, he had graduated from that as well, and it seemed to be extremely beneficial. And it's very weird, I think that when they talk about no support for the arts, while that exists, it probably doesn't exist in a lot of places that we don't have a chance to visit on a regular basis. So that's where I think some of those ideas, when I talk about that Sass Unlimited, how can we provide some of those opportunities to some of the folks that maybe can't get to it? Like I'm seeing it's there, and I know those rooms aren't used 24 hours a day. Like, could could I speak with some of these people and figure out a way to like do some sort of partnership with some of the inner city schools and transfer it out there? Or, I think about the guy from, what the frick is the name of that band? It's a metal band from here, Pop Evil. But so he has a foundation where they take tour buses when they aren't being used, and the company that owns them gives them for free to families who need transportation for children who are terminally ill or like need, help to get somewhere, so the whole family can go together. And I was like,
Wow.
there's a rewarding thing to be involved in. Okay, and it was I was talking to folks like Nikki Glaspie, last year about some different ideas that she has. She works with a company called, or for an organization called the Harold Robinson Foundation, and they take kids from the inner city of LA out to the woods for a couple weeks in the summer. And she was telling me stories about, seeing that experience for those kids, and then how when they're 18, they don't really have an opportunity to do anything else because a lot of them are foster and they don't have a lot of places to go. So their opportunity is, factory, Target, Meyer, which are all great ways to make a living. But she wanted to see, what could they do after 18, so putting all those different life experiences together and thoughts, and knowing that construction is an opportunity for some folks to instantly make a very good wage, even just pushing a broom, as long as you can fog a glass and you want to learn, like seriously, it's a good place to be. So yeah, it's been nice to provide some of those opportunities.
Yeah. It's it's a good trend that in the, in the wake of, last year, there's kind of been a lot more support from just peer to peer, like a lot of people reaching out for help, or making opportunities for people. I know I played a couple. I think of like Christian Nickel out in Holland. He plays with Crooked Spires, and the he worked with some people to put on some outdoor events, and had friends that had like, this guy's done lighting for bands, this guy worked at the intersection, he knows how to do sound, this guy owns a fog machine. Like, it was just like piecing together the elements of a fun time, and then making sure that it was in locations that were like neutral or like manageable, and like keeping people informed about it, but not like trying to minimize, like, oh, we have way too many people here and now it's just chaos. It was like each time it was a little scrappy, but it was like that endearing, like, oh, they put up a lighting rig, they put up a tent, there is an artist area, like there all these things that they're trying to really pay attention to, were noted. And it's just how many more people, like, suddenly their back porches were venues for a lot of artists.
Yeah, some of my favorite shows were in VA halls or libraries or whatever there in Muskegon with, whack trucks or some of these. I didn't go to a ton of them. I don't want to sound like I was there for every one of them, but some of the cooler little things that I think about were always in these places where there should not have been a show. I don't think they realized that a show was going to be there when it happened, and it all ended up being totally fine. But I always think of that clip of the like hardcore band in a Denny's. They rented out. It was fucking going wild, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty sweet. So that's kind of that's what keeps me going to think about this stuff. And so like again with that Sass Unlimited, I don't think you're gonna. I just got excited thinking about that clip right there, thinking about a weird space for shows and whatnot. I love it.
Yeah. Thinking of a weird space for shows. You said you actually went to Woodstock 99?
Oh yeah, I was at Woodstock '99. It was pretty wild. In fact, I'm gonna get a this picture that I have on my.
Ooh.
It's a for me. Let me see if it's still. Yeah, it's still here. Sweet. It's kind of hard to see, and I don't know if it'll pick because it was 35 millimeter before phones. You know, Woodstock '99. They didn't really. I'm really dating myself with this one, but they didn't really have cameras that were built on your phones. I had a cell phone, I remember, a Motorola StarTAC 3000. It didn't get service, but let me see if I can flip this around here. So what that is a picture of a fence line at Woodstock '99, and it is they took Sprite bottles and I think whatever comes in clear Coke bottles, yeah, and they wrote out Woodstock, and the S is a big dollar sign.
That's a perfect summary of Woodstock '99.
Yeah, it was. Let me see if that'll work again. Yeah, here we go. So,
Oh yeah.
okay. So it's a really dark photo though, unfortunately. If I can bring it inside and turn on some lights here or something like that, because it's really telling of you know, just what the vibe was at this place. You see that now? Can you kind of make it out?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better. It's always tricky with camera focus.
God, I'm gonna end
Oh,
up killing.
I can make it out. Yeah, much better now. I can see at least. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. So that was kind of like the vibe at this place. It was there's my doggy, this little star child. Um, that was kind of the vibe at that place. That's how much garbage was just laying around for people to pick up. Um, you know, one of the most wild experiences of my life. And, you know, a lot of people go, oh, well, I was at Fish or I was doing this or that. And it's like, yeah, well, you don't have a story about a crazy place like that. So enjoy your safe weekend, my friend.
Yeah. So you,
Yeah.
you were
Go
there
ahead.
all was it 3 days? All 3 days?
Yeah, I think we showed up on that Thursday. It was like, so me and a bunch of friends from high school rented a van. We had an older brother who was old enough to get said van. We put a bunch of really shaggy weed in said van, and you know, some other fun things in ourselves, and went across Michigan. We crossed at Detroit, which is surprising to me, and had no problems getting into Canada or out of Canada over to Rome, New York, I believe it was in.
Oh, yep.
Um, yeah, so '99 was a whole different world. And yeah, we got there and it was just like fucking mayhem from the beginning, you know, long lines to get in. We finally parked and then you couldn't camp near your car. This place was a giant old Air Force base, so it wasn't like it was made for walking across, but at least it was kind of flat. So they parked you and then you had to unload everything and walk like a mile to the gate, and then you had to go in and find your spot, which was not like set up anywhere, you know. It was kind of like, here's a giant, like, to give you an idea of the scope of it, it was a mile from stage to stage and there was four of them. So like
Uh
it was two runways that crossed. So there was a giant stage at the end of each one of them. In the center there was like this big rave tent, which I actually never fully went into the rave tent because at that time I was a little bit scared of the rave tent. It was
I'd
back
be scared.
when the club kids were on Donahue and stuff, dude. Don't blame me. It was scary. So, um, so yeah, we got in there and then you would camp and you were kind of like, I don't remember there being a separate venue from like the, you know how like Electric Forest you would camp and then you have to like walk up to a gate and then go inside every day. I don't remember there being that way. I think you camped right amongst everything. So it was just like these huge, you know, you put on your tent and we found it along this road-ish thing that was just like a bunch of wood chips kind of near some porta johns, and then set up and just started partying our asses off. Yeah, it was Thursday night, and then Friday was when it all started. And I think that night was Metallica, I want to say. You know, as one of the headliners. A lot of it's a little bit fuzzy, as you can imagine. I was 20, so uh, we were rocking and rolling pretty good. But yeah, so we got there, you get inside, and then it's just like these massive stages and these massive food areas and an 8-ounce bottle of water. And I remember like bottled water wasn't even a thing really back then in a major way, but it was $8 for an 8-ounce bottle of water.
and then it was $12 for a 12-inch pizza, $8 for a hamburger, I think 10 for a cheeseburger, and that's kind of where you could just see everybody the moment they walked up to buy something. They were just like, motherfucker. And then, yeah, and all the vending was like I remember like Black Death cigarettes and like a bunch of weird like quasi motorcycle rally, quasi hippie festival slash jazz slash like local crafts person, like massive vending area. And then that kind of mimicked throughout it. And there wasn't really much else to do besides go to the shows. That being said, it's the days would start with like James Brown, that kind of shit. So it wasn't like at like 1, I think, in the afternoon. So it wasn't like it sucked too bad. There's
Right.
every day, all day long. I mean, I saw one of the craziest moments was watching. It was I think it was Mo, and I think it was Mo and Insane Clown Posse, and then into George Clinton's 50th birthday party, where Shock G from Digital Underground showed up as Humpty Hump. And it's just,
Whoa.
yeah. So I mean, everything that everybody says about it, boots on the ground the first few days, totally idyllic for the most part, at least from my perspective. A lot of douches, a lot of ecstasy at the time, a lot of probably bad ecstasy, a lot of I guess it's not fair to regionalize folks, but some of that Jersey Shore element was rocking around, and it was kind of just as all these festivals were becoming again a major thing. So it was a new deal, and it was kind of overcome by that side of the country that seemed to come in more with an attitude of let's fucking tear this place apart, especially after bands like Metallica and Rage Against the Machine and like all these other wild metal bands are playing, and obviously the infamous Fred Durst riding the plywood, and um, yeah, all of it happened, and it was all exactly what you think it was, and it was a weird vibe because we were all supposed, so juxtaposing Fred Durst on a piece of plywood against George Clinton celebrating his 50th birthday with Humpty Hump and Sir Nose Devoid of Funk doing his crazy dances on stage. You're just like, where the hell am I? I mean, I don't know that Burning Man, Electric Forest, any of these places can put on that wild of a vibe and a feeling. So whether or not that's good or bad, it obviously didn't turn out to be great. But for a time and for a few hours and at least a day during it, there was some magic going on.
Yeah, because that documentary that just came out, I watched it with Hannah and Chris, Hannah Lane and Chris Bota, and um, the whole time, our musician, playing shows brain kicked in, and as problems started happening, like, oh, the drinking water pipes broke, and an area is flooded, and the sewer lines broke.
Dude, it was
Crazy.
that's real. Like it wasn't so the first night was that George Clinton Insane Clown Posse, rock. I mean, that's a wild back-to-back party right there. Both Detroit. I mean, think about the bookend of Detroit right there, you know. Like what the fuck, man. I didn't really think about that, but so you got that going on, and then that ended, and I can't remember where we went after that. I was on some mushrooms at the time, and to talk about the water pipes breaking and all the sewage and stuff, this is still one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had in my life. After the George Clinton show, everybody was still chanting "We want the funk," and this was like 30, 35, maybe 40 minutes later, and it was like, how could this still be going on? Like that's how much energy was in the air that first night. And I was cruising back, went past some porta johns, and I was like, oh, I gotta use the restroom. And I open the door and I step in and I start, doing the number one into the little trough, which were new at the time. Hadn't really seen the troughs in a porta john at that time in history. Interesting fact. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. And I'm using it, and I hear like more splashy closer to me than I should. And I bring my other foot like in and like reposition my weight, whatever, and I feel like the thing go just like this, the porta john.
Oof.
I hear like sploosh, sloosh, and my legs were just covered in all the pee that was backed up in the urinal.
Ugh.
Yeah, and I had to. So the way it goes into the sewer and the water pipes is I had to run outside, and I mean, $8 bottle of water, and there wasn't readily available pipes just out of the water flowing springs to clean you. Let alone, I don't know they even had shower trailers. There was like a cistern, for lack of a better term. It was just a metal, or not metal, cement like sewer pipe, like an 8 foot, diameter sewer pipe that was turned, like a hunk of it that was turned on its side, and it had this one pipe coming out of the center of it, and it must have been from a well, and it was just shooting water, but it had filled up that cement thing over the course of the day. So like people were like, not using it to bathe in, and I just ran and jumped in this thing, and people were like, "Oh, not cool, dude, not cool." And I'm like, "I'm covered in pee," and just totally freaking out. So that was probably the more wild version, the most wild thing that happened to me while I was there. So that was
Wow.
Friday. That was Friday night, yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday, Saturday might have begun with Robbie Krieger from the Doors, the guitarist, sitting in with Creed and catching a full. So people don't really remember that thing happening. Some James Brown, all the interesting shit. Definitely, most people were at, and while it was kind of far away, you were able to kind of cut across and go to those stages. So Saturday being a little bit blurry, don't quite I'd have to look at the schedule again to really put myself where I was that day. But Sunday is when shit started going down, and I remember, walking over to grab some food because we were out of like grillables, and there was just garbage everywhere, and people were like weirdly trying to recreate like the peace symbol on the ground out of this garbage that wasn't like left behind yet. So it was really kind of sad, and we were sitting there eating this $12 pizza that sucked, and it just was like hot. It was 130 degrees in the tarmac, so everything was on a black runway, so just tar, and it freaking 130 degrees in the tarmac. I still remember the heat, and you had nowhere else to go, and there was no shade or anything, and people hadn't been drinking enough water, and people hadn't been eating enough because it was so expensive, and it started getting to, you could feel the tension in the air, and it got to the end of the weekend, and Red Hot Chili Peppers were the last band to go on, and they were closing out, and I don't think any of the other stages were going. So you're talking like 250,000 people standing there getting ready to watch the Red Hot Chili Peppers in their prime, and they're late. And at some point, for some reason, this group starts circulating. I don't know if they talk about this in documentary. I haven't watched it yet, but this group starts circulating through the crowd and talking about this Jimi Hendrix tribute that's going to happen, that the Chili Peppers are going to put on after the show, or at the end of the show, and they hand out these candles that are like 4 inches tall, like devotional candles, like at a church.
Oh yeah, they mentioned that there was like a couple of people were handing them out as for a ceremony thing.
This was not a couple people. This was thousands of these candles.
Well,
And
yeah, a couple of people part of they showed them on camera, but yeah, lots of people got candles. I just on the screen they showed like an example of like these two guys are handing them out, and there's more tents.
dude, it was insane how many people got candles, and then they were late, so everyone got bored, and everyone lit their candle, and then people started like looking out across the sea of 250,000 people, and all of a sudden you see a fire that is perceptible. That's a big fire. So people were taking and melting the candles together, and then like throwing garbage in it, so it was like waxing over things that were combustible, and then making candles out of like cups, whatever. So just making these giant wax piles and lighting them on fire, and then other people saw that and started getting the same idea, and that's when it just ignited, man. And those popped up like 30 or 40 of them. And then people started climbing the towers, and it was still, you know, not. I think they still went ahead with the concert at that point, and then, excuse me, there probably wasn't the fires going so hard yet. So the Chili Peppers go on. Everyone has these candles. People are burning them, and they've built these fires during their set. And then the last song of the night, the Chili Peppers talk about this, um, memorial they're gonna do, and they played "Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire." Talk about that.
Yeah, I remember that moment because I'm like, this is a perfect, like, you know, they're singing about fire as the whole thing's just on fire.
Dude, I'm getting total goosebumps right now thinking about the scene because we were pretty close to the stage and like stage left and kind of over to the side of the crowd. So you could see pretty much everything that was going on. And like all of a sudden these fire trucks start lining up. And then you see National Guard. And then they start moving on the crowd and you're just like, what the hell's going on? Like this doesn't make a lot of sense. And the stage shuts down and then the crowd like starts they're like, starting to move the crowd in a direction, but then they would get to like a fire, and then the crowd would kind of mob them, and then people start taking the plywood off the wall, all the outside security fences, and they're throwing that onto the fires. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they move towards the campgrounds, and at that point we were like, it's time to head back to the camp and kind of get away from this portion of it. And I think that's probably when they lit the vending on fire and started looting all of the retail, all the trailers. So like all of those people who had all of their stuff there, it all either got burnt. Well, first it got stolen and then burnt. So you're talking like the biggest swap meet you've ever seen, just completely on fire and looted and burned. And they kind of like ran people through there, for lack of a better way to think about it. Like it didn't. Yeah, if they were trying to protect that, they didn't. So then we were back at our tent, and there's probably like 12 of us or so, and we're trying to figure out what to do because at this point you're like, I mean, it's utter chaos. Like people running by with handfuls of stuff. You're kind of thinking like I've got to protect my own stuff, and it was pretty late at night, and it didn't like feel violent or imminent in that way, in any shape or form. But I do remember the point at which we realized it was time to go. People were uprooting telephone poles. So
That's time to leave.
yeah, they were dropping on the ground. They'd get like a big group of people, and they were just kind of like poorly put in the ground. They get a big group of people and swing them back and forth a little bit, then boom. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? So I think by the time that light broke the next day, I remember one of the guys I was with took a poop in his tent. It was the first one they did taken all weekend. I don't think that I used the restroom more than a number one besides that time, that first Friday, because the water was so expensive and unavailable. And the food also was so expensive. Like, it was just so hot too. Like, people were, I mean, now that I think about that, I guess I really hadn't, I mean, not too, little bit of TMI, but like, not a lot of times you go 4 days, without showers and using the bathroom in any way. And it wasn't because, it was all because of the heat and the lack of hydration and nutrition. And no one was like even coming close to thinking about it. And it all fell apart, I guess, probably the middle of the second day when no one wanted to work anymore. Like people, you literally just saw like people that were doing security just stop, like just literally walk away. Like, okay, like people working in the food tents, like just didn't anymore because they had tickets, and it wasn't the days of RFID and wristband and all that stuff. Like, if you're in, you're in. So everyone just kind of stopped, and and without the vibe of the '60s, which I still don't know where everyone went to the bathroom at Woodstock. I think that's kind of what happened. A lot of that metal, a lot of the intenseness of it, and then just close it out and hand it out. Everyone's just pissed. You spent all this money. All the shows were good. I'll say that. Like, the music was really good, but the people just kind of, it was a weird time in history, man, and they didn't seem to understand why they should be gathered together, and it definitely was a money grab, and it was definitely co-opted for all the wrong reasons. And when you really look at the people who were involved, it seems as though the one guy who probably shouldn't have been involved from Woodstock was involved. So it's just like, how in the hell did anybody believe that this was going to work again? But it there wasn't so many large things like this happening at that time. So I mean, God bless them for trying, but I think it brought a lot more, for the few people who had really, really bad experiences there. I don't know that it was worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the documentary does a good job of getting different perspectives, but also kind of trying to figure out the churning climate of like, okay, it's 99, everyone's worried about Y2K or the new millennium, and then they were mentioning how like a lot of the people who came for all the new metal shows, they were also like they're booing Carson Daly.
Big time, dude. Yeah, it was that whole new metal thing was really big at the time, and I mean, butt rock, new metal, whatever you want to call it. But it just really it permeated it, and everything else got. I mean, I'm surprised that James Brown didn't get booed. I mean, when you're seeing fucking Robbie Krieger playing with the Doors, that's there's a statement being made right there.
Yeah, and they, I remember they did a good job of like, showcasing some of the thought of like, oh, we're going to bring someone from the Doors because that's that generation that went to that Woodstock. And then I think another band did the, or no, I think it was Wycliffe Jean did the like, Star Spangled Banner, Jimi Hendrix moment and lit his guitar on fire as like,
Yeah.
It's like all these cheap grabs at like things that just happened spur of the moment and had way more significance.
Yes, yeah, there was a lot of that, and that's where it just like, when I think, I guess that I just, in my mind, that in saying ICP into George Clinton, that was just, I don't know, you would never see something like that again. So the rest of it though was super fucking weird, man. I mean, Blues Traveler put on a great show, they always do, but like, think about some of those bands like Limp Bizkit being #1 on the charts at the same time.
Yep.
And their big headlining thing, and God bless everyone in this world, but I walked out one time of a show at the Fox Theater in Detroit, and it was Widespread Panic, and the next theater down, can't remember the name of it, Mary J. Blige was getting out at the same time, and it was a vibe, man. It was so cool. It was Hummer limos and VW buses, and it was so fun. New metal people and someone there to see Mo, especially at that time when there wasn't a lot of consideration for other people's emotions or feelings or how they might be. Yeah. Plus, you got emo in there. I mean, I will say a very good example of a hugely diverse crowd of people that were on stage. Now, I think that you commented, I saw on Facebook, you're like, didn't see a lot of black people. And when you said that, I was like, didn't see a lot of black people. And I now that I think back, but yeah, it was just a very aggro celebration, almost like a weird like like that same vibe of like a Trump rally, I would imagine.
Yeah, the one of the people they interviewed compared it to like, it had that feeling of like a like a revival, like a spiritual revivalist like tent worship where everyone's just like, just going off, and there's just this collective like, the spirit's taking everybody and everyone's just off the walls and just fully, like uninhibited. But
Yes.
yeah, like just that yeah, all those people there all packed together close to the stage, like
Bedlam, dude. I mean, I saw tons of people having sex, tons of naked people, to the point where you were like, oh, there's someone with clothes on, cool. Like your childhood dream, and then all of a sudden you're like, this isn't the best thing ever. And like literal sex shows going on top of trailers, like it was total anarchy. And I guess now when you start thinking about it that way, going, sometimes you're just there and it's like, whatever. But it was pretty fucking wild for a 19, 20-year-old to be going and experiencing like that. And it's everything that sounds like the documentary is putting out there. It was, man, just chaos, absolute fucking chaos, man. And that's the other one. I guess the other time that I experienced something with that kind of energy was, and not in this one, wasn't in the new metal, give me something to break.
right.
Yeah, dude, when they played give me something to break, like that was kind of, I guess that line right there sums up Woodstock 99.
Yep.
Gives you something to break. So the other time that I felt, that sort of energy, but in a different way, was seeing Rage Against the Machine and Wu-Tang Clan and Atari Teenage Riot at the freaking, what's it called? The Silverdome.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was sold out, and there were tons of people in there. It was just fucking packed, and everyone was, sitting on the floor, kind of suffering through Atari Teenage Riot. And then, which they were a cool band, but I can only hear someone say Atari Teenage Riot so many times. And then Wu-Tang comes on, and I think the only one that wasn't there was the RZA at the time. And they're just killing it, dude. I mean, with Key Sweat Love push-ups, and they got the rally towels, and they're spraying Mountain Dew all over everybody, and just in their fucking prime. And then the moment that they got off and Rage got on, the entire first bowl and pretty much the second deck just jumped the rails and just went on the floor. And for the next, however long the concert was, it was just fucking mayhem. And I did not run down there. I sat up on the second floor just watching it all go down. But it was that was the only other time I really felt that. And it's crazy that Rage was in both of those instances. So to be able to have been blessed enough to see Zach De La Rocha do it twice. Yeah, that's what happens, man. That's why some people need to keep some people like that off the stage. It was very powerful to see that, and so it's hard to. I gotta let my dog out again. She's biting my hand, but it's hard to say, that I didn't have some good times, but I think overall it probably should not have happened. Even like thinking about Woodstock '94. I don't think that it was probably as cool as everybody thinks it was. Especially if the same people were involved. So, going from a safety standpoint and this whole through line and kind of seeing that and some of the recent things going on, I feel a little bit of that kind of vibe coming back at concerts, which is a little bit scary to me. Especially the other day, I can't remember where it was, but I saw a video of a kid climbing the tower, like the strut tower on the side of the stage, and he went across the lighting truss and like kind of American Ninja out like 3 handholds, and then started swinging back and forth, and then fell and broke his leg. Luckily,
Ouch.
only broke his leg. Yeah, so I was like, man, they need some safety screen, blah blah blah. Automatically, like, here, this is what we need to do, blah blah blah. Like, so cool to see that and to look back, and not great to have been one of the worst disasters in musical history, but going into events, that was a great thing to know not to do. And I think it showed me early on why you don't cheat people. You keep your prices fair, and you provide a good setting for both artist and fan. I mean, everyone there. I never really liked the terms artist and fan, or even like the separation. I think just seeing how easy it is to not have to stand out in the crowd. If you just want to do something, work hard. Like you can be backstage or whatever. And so everyone's a fan of what's going on there at the time. So I think it's cool to see that how bad it can go when everyone's there for the wrong reason, but then to have an experience like all the Founders Fest that I went to, including a sellout with Humphreys, and see what happens when everyone's there for the right reason, and have 8,000 people drink 5 pints on average of pretty high octane beer and have no incident besides a guy fell over a fire hydrant that I admittedly should have marked a little better, but it's red, so I mean.
Pretty obvious, yes.
Yeah, so that I definitely not an experience that I would want to say was a great experience to have, but one that definitely has benefited me over the years. And it's a fun story to have. I'm surprised I don't have, like, there wasn't. I was just thinking, I was surprised I don't have like merch or anything. I have like my car pass and maybe like a map of the grounds, but like there wasn't anything there besides music. It's really weird,
Wow.
man. I mean, music and just drugs and partying. So I guess that's the spirit of Woodstock, huh?
Yeah. guess they nailed that part at least.
Yeah, man. I just wish Wavy Gravy would have shown up with some of that granola in the morning one of the days or something. We were hurting out there. And it wasn't the cheapest thing at the time. I think it was right around $300.
Oh yeah, in 90s prices.
Yeah, so now everyone's complaining about like $250 for 80 artists at Electric Forest plus something to do during the day.
Yeah, the infrastructure of those bigger festivals, like it's like it's like a pop-up city, and then
The catering tents have like for the staff and production and everything, uh that are also used for some of the artist purposes too, but they have full washer dryer. You know,
whoa.
like there's not like some hippie back there washing. I mean, he's a hippie, but or she or whoever it is a hippie, but like there's not someone with just like a pot and a pan like washing dishes in a sink. You know, this is like full industrial kitchens, like all like semi trucks filled with equipment that come in and set up. I mean, it's, for lack of a better way to think about it, you're kind of doing some FEMA camp type thing. You know, you're providing instant pop-up food and relief to people who need it. So if an emergency situation, I mean, it's the same type of stuff you would put there. So it's a great way to utilize those resources that are just sitting there waiting for an emergency. And like this guy, I think his name was Kerry, that ran the one in Electric Forest for a lot of years, but you could even get eggs made to order back there for the
That's
staff,
cool.
for people rigging the stages and stuff, you know? So it's just like, yeah, it is a little city like that, you know, and everything happens in a little city, and you hope for the best and you plan to mitigate the worst, and you just hope people make the right decisions. And that kind of thinking about like Woodstock 99 and some of the construction site safety and all that stuff, it's just like, it's very interesting to have that perspective now, to go from you know, I wouldn't say a situation where you have a lack of self-worth, but you know, when you're young, sometimes you don't know your worth, you know, so you're just out there fucking tearing it up, you know, not even, not, you know, not like sad, don't know your worth. You just literally don't value your existence as a human being and how, you know, unique that is. And you go out there and just rip it up, and just to not really to get through it all, and to get this older perspective, that's been kind of nice, you know, to think back on these memories. And not that they were super adventurous or anything, you know, I just bought a ticket and went somewhere, but it's cool to see how far things have come, and to get to that point where, like, hopefully as the young people are coming up, I can provide some opportunities that are more safe, that are inclusive, that feel good for people, where you're not starting out on Friday with your fingers crossed, hoping that by Saturday everyone doesn't discover that you're a Trump fan, and by Sunday they get the guns out, you know.
Yeah.
You know, one of my biggest, you know, someone I'm the biggest fan of, for lack of a better term, is Howard Stern. And it's funny to see him progress and go through life, and go from somebody that, you know, was not well liked and maybe didn't do the best things in society, to someone who kind of seems to care these days, and admittedly through meditation and stuff. But he would always say, even back in the day, he'd be like, all I'm doing is opening up the biggest tent possible. It's my tent, but everyone's welcome, you know. And for me, that's kind of how I've always viewed events, like, and everyone's gonna, hopefully they can feel safe, and that they can be whoever they want to be at those places. And that's kind of what I'm bringing into the construction world too, I think, you know, is my Spanish is getting amazing. Not fluent, not semi-fluent, but I'm getting there, and starting to show, you know, that not all gringos are out there just to hose people, and, you know, that not all, you know, Mexicans are bad people, and just literally trying to make that same commonality of hospitality and welcomeness, and we're all in this together, taking that from events into these, you know, small festivals of building a building. Now, I will say the music sucks a lot worse. I have heard LaGrange, I mean, RIP Dusty Hill, but I've heard LaGrange enough to fucking, I never want to, and I honestly don't know how classic rock became the anthem for construction, because it's not, it's either classic rock, cumbia, or bachata music. That's it.
Ah.
Everywhere. And I fucking gravitate right to that cumbia and bachata, because it's way more fun, and those dudes are whistling along, having a good time. And classic rock, just, I'm fucking like, I even kind of want to say I don't want to listen to fucking Led Zeppelin for a while. Like, good Lord, guys. Like, I try to talk to people about different music, and I try to get them excited, and they don't quite get it. My boss plays in a metal band, and he's pretty cool. He's got, you know, he knows what time it is. He's a great bass player, and actually opens up for like Disturbed and Stained, and like, you know, some pretty bigger bands, speaking of butt rock.
Wow.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Brian, if you're listening. You know, so there's another way to look at it too. You know, I mean, he just cut a new CD, and they've got merch, and they tour and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, but yeah, classic rock can go away. I'm done with that. But overall, it's been a good thing to transition into. The industry is a good place to be, and I'm finding that it's one of those spots where there's a lot of low hanging fruit to really go after and improve the situation. You know, just from like bringing donuts to people to showing someone how to use a tool correctly to showing them a different phrase to, you know, whatever it can be. It's been a really good thing.
Yeah, it's great to see the just the healthy reflection on, you know, just the things you've done, the places you've been, the skills you've learned, and then knowing that there's always an opportunity to help people. I interviewed Hundo the other day, and
Nice.
she was saying the same sentiments of like all I want to do is like I think her plan is to eventually create a space kind of like the Dream Pirate Gallery guy. I think he started a festival or something, but yeah, somewhere where it's like, you know, book very inclusive bands, book very, you know, create a space that's like a space to delight in at everyone's like shared commonality, but celebrate differences and, you know, and cultures and
Yeah, and it's nice to hear that, and that's kind of the one thing that I think you know, I don't know, folks who are probably more interested in hearing salacious details of anything or whatever. You know, I have nothing but love for founders, and you know, would love to, you know, hear if they would love to have me back or something. Who knows? But um, I always used to say when the first, so Four Finger Five, the band I used to manage, played 26 shows there, and from the first time they were the only place when I would go along, and when I say manage, I'm talking loosely managed, like sold them weed, maybe that kind of thing in the beginning. So I
managed.
was just there as a hangers on, you know, it's a job. Someone's got to do it. But
Yeah.
they treated me like a human and gave me beers and like really showed me a good time. And didn't make me feel less than in any way, shape, or form. And I immediately set my compass for that particular position at Founders. And I was like, man, if there's ever a way to be involved with these people and run the music for them, like they seem to really love it. And I want to be the person in charge of that, you know? So spent like the next 12, 14 years, like really focusing on that and learning everything I could from them. And every time we went there, all I ever saw was an opportunity to really reach the most broad audience I'd ever seen anywhere. You know, like there really isn't, besides being fans of beer, there wasn't a lot of another niche to it. Um, so that's where, you know, that's kind of at odds, I think, with a lot of the people. If they pay attention to the news and some of the issues that came up, they might kind of feel differently about that. But you know, that along with, you know, seeing the good and the bad, you know, with Woodstock 99, and then seeing, you know, how when a bunch of people come together with a great idea at Founders and make it turn out really awesome. Um, it's just kind of mind blowing to see the two different ways you can do it and to see just how inclusive that place is. And to have been a part of that for so long was an honor. And you know, if I'm not, I mean, I've gotten weepy a few times as we've been talking here. I don't know if it's coming through, but it's hard. You know, you catch lightning in a bottle, and you find your dream, and then that dream has to change sometimes. So yeah, but I would say, you know, going back to, I just really found that place was probably the biggest inspiration for me to go forth in the world and just be a better person. I used to kind of say, like, you know, Founders, if you hang out there long enough, you seem to become a better person. And I don't know if that's true for everybody. And when you go from, I was 148th employee, and then when I was laid off, I think there was 148 employees in the deli, you know,
Yeah, just one piece of the
tap room, I should say, you know. So it's just to see a growth like that, to be a part of that, was awesome. And now I'm, you know, working at a company that's kind of doing some of that same thing, but just in a different industry. And you know, we have 100 and some employees right now, and we're poised to, you know, be taking on some pretty major contracts. We have 46 jobs going at all times, and it's part of my responsibility to make sure that our customers get a good quality product, that people have a good time on the site, that people, and then to try and convince people to come and work for us in this industry, you know, and to try to make it a better place.
yeah, that's all you can do is just you keep, you know, take the best skills you have, find the people that are also putting their best foot forward, and just keep moving forward together, and you know, being conscious of everyone's, you know, everyone's got different paths to their best self, and seeing how you can bring that out of people or like assist it. It's always cool.
Yeah, and I do when you were talking about like reaching out for help and that kind of stuff over this time, just I started, kind of looking into my health, and I'm fine, everybody, thank you. But just had some shoulder issues and all that, but after breaking my leg in 2018, spontaneously from a fainting incident in the middle of the night, stone cold sober, um, I finally had the time to sit back and take a look at all of that, and through that, you really start to see, what's worth it, what's not. And you start to take stock of all the past stuff that added up to all these aches and pains. And I still got some fight left in me. I'll say that though. It's interesting, man, to be able to take that time to get it all fixed. Down 20, 30 pounds right now. I was down 40 at the top of it. Haven't had more than a 30 pack of beer in the last year, and a lot of clarity, so it's been good and interesting, but definitely, going to that Green Sky show, shout out to Symbiosis Events and Farmer John out there. It was just really nice to see live music again and to see people smiling. A guy once asked me what I used to do when I'd walked onto a job, and I told him, all about the concerts and stuff. And then he said, now what do you do? And I told him I was a safety officer, and he goes, kind of looks off in the distance. He goes, so people used to really love it when you came around, didn't they? And I was like, I don't know. It seemed to have a good time. He goes, and now when you walk in a room, everyone fucking runs. And I was like, oh my God, that's a terrible way to look at it. So, maybe if I can take some of that attitude and start to use some of my little spark of joy here to change people's mind about that, that's going to be a good thing. So,
Yeah, I definitely see that being a good thing. Yeah, this was a great chat. I'm glad that learning more about your background and seeing the Woodstock 99, like just the experience there, and also just seeing that you're in a great, like, just how you're thinking about things, connecting, the dots of like what you're good at, what you want to do, how you want to help people. Like, it's really cool. And yeah, it's a great, motivator for me and for people, I guess, in 2021 who are starting to get, some momentum building or some things rolling again, like knowing that there are opportunities out there to, be your best self and help other people be their best selves.
yeah, man, it's very easy to do, and I don't know that I do that every day, but it's always it's a path to try and walk, and hopefully, yeah, if somebody gets some inspiration from that, I guess if you talk to my wife Lauren, hey, she probably can tell you about more dark times and sad times and some tears on the pillow and things like that, and being laid off from something that you chased for that long is not the best feeling ever. So
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't lie to you if I didn't say that I don't miss it a lot, and kind of always. But like you said, what are you going to do? You make hay while the sun shines, and you got to keep that positive attitude. And I've really found, when you're wearing exoskeletons and using like $2,000 drills and driving like 5,000-pound forklifts and stuff, like that's all the shit that little dudes have always wanted to do. So like, I'm not in the worst situation. If I was, drywalling old ladies' houses again, and which that was kind of awesome too, because they always made you good cookies. So it's been pretty cool to see. So if anybody's interested in construction, give me a shout. My number is 231-286-4675. If you want to talk about Sass Unlimited or anything like that, lukemsass@gmail.com. I'll have a bunch of links coming up soon. SassUnlimited.com will be rolling out eventually. Look for some awesome vegan and vegetarian stuff around your area. We're going to be working with a former NFL player on some meal plan ideas and stuff. So just a lot of weird stuff, so kind of that same idea of finding other folks who might not like Shark Tank or anything like that, but like finding folks who have these ideas and providing them a space via the coffee factory or some events at different places to do what they do, maybe shying away from alcohol for the time being and kind of looking to build people up. Not that I have any issue with that or, anybody who drinks, but I think it'd be interesting to try and get grandparents all the way down to grandchildren out rocking out to the same thing and try and make community and unity through that.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep an eye out for that. The big Sass Unlimited, the big shining buildings you're building.
Yeah, man, we'll see. You know, and then we got the amphitheater potentially coming to Grand Rapids, all sorts of good stuff. So it's good around here, man. It's nice talking to you. My wife's about to be home from work here, so I want to make sure I got the house all ready for her and the dog all worn out. So
Yeah.
I'm going to sign off here, but I appreciate you thinking of me. As I said before, not a lot of folks have been calling to, I guess, you, John Sakevics, Al Lively, Pam Fernandez, Jake Robinson, guys in Green Sky, that kind of stuff. It's been awesome to be thought about. And anybody who's been thinking about me, feel free to give me a call. I'm around. And I will do better about calling y'all as well. And I look forward to seeing the sound team here. What's the next date here? We might as well promote Steve's upcoming show.
Yeah, August 25th at the beer garden at Founders. He's doing I assume he'll have guests, but I know he does, he got all the loops, the guitar, the singing, he just put out a new album this year, so he's got a bunch of new tunes. So everybody check out Steve Leaf, check out his new tunes, check out some of his ice cream recommendations. The kid lives in the Cone Zone, and if you have been longing for hanging out with some folks from the Founders Entertainment, the former folks from the Founders Entertainment team, besides Morgan, he works there now again. Oh, okay.
Come out on the 25th and say hi to us. We'd love to have a beer with you and check out what Steve's got going on, man. I think everything's coming back to life, and it makes me feel really good to just go out there and see those things. But everyone stay safe. They're starting to pass, so being involved with safety and all that, it's a little spooky right now. Kalamazoo in particular is one of the hot spots, and they've passed some new mask recommendations, and some of our jobs are requiring people to be masked on site now. So I could see some of that starting to slide into live entertainment again. So everyone be careful, mask up, go get your shot if you haven't. If you're not going to go get it, shut up and just stay home. And I love you all, and I really appreciate you thinking about me, Dutcher, man. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you doing well. I'm glad that getting healthy and taking care of yourself, and I look forward to just hanging out. And I hope that all your little your stuff resolves quickly without much pain that you got going on there.
Yes, that's all I can hope for.
Right on, man. Stay strong, and I appreciate it, and I love you, buddy.
Yeah, I love you too. This is great.
I'd love to talk to you anytime again, man.
For sure. Yeah, I'll see you sometime this month, 25th. Yeah.
And I'll promise you my next scoop on what Sass Unlimited has going on when we get it figured out, all right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, man. Cool. Well, thank you again for thinking of me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see my wife. It's been a while, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Ron, buddy. Talk to you later.
See ya. All right, I'm recording another outro. Remember, this happened last week, and I'm doing it again this week because we're evolving. But thank you so much again for listening to this wonderful conversation with Luke Sass. If you want to find out more, I'll put links and things that he mentioned in the description of this episode. So whatever platform you're listening to it on, you can see it. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Mitten Backstage. Take care.